Welcome back. The EU has introduced a traffic light system for a better overview of the epidemiological situation in individual member states. Three colors, red, orange and green, denote high, medium and low risk areas in the bloc. Grey regions signify areas where insufficient data is available. Now, across Germany, coronavirus infections have been falling drastically, dropping to a mere 9 cases per 100,000 residents within 7 days on average. All travelers to Germany must present either a negative test result, proof of vaccination or documentation proving recovery from COVID prior to departure. And it appears that authorities there accept PCR, LAM, TMA and antigen tests. Well, in the meantime, Delta remains the topic of the week, as health officials warn the variant is likely already dominant in Germany. Well, Chelsea Dulani, Deutsche Welle correspondent, joins us now from Berlin for more on this. Hi, Chelsea. I mean, Germany is considering new travel rules as the Delta variant takes hold across Europe. What could change?
Well, one thing that definitely is going to change is that Germany is ramping up controls at entry points like airports and external borders. This was announced yesterday by the German Interior Minister Horst Seehofer. They also want to have local health offices step up their enforcement of things like quarantine orders. In the past, many people who have been required to quarantine say that no one ever really checked in to make sure that they were actually doing it. And that is obviously a big infection risk. So increasing monitoring to make sure people are actually following the travel rules is a big priority for the government right now. But perhaps one piece of good news is that Germany is also now considering changing its classification for both the UK and Portugal. Right now, travelers from those areas face the strictest quarantine requirements, a 2-week quarantine. But the German health minister has said that they could actually reclassify them as risk areas instead of variant areas, which would mean less strict quarantine requirements. So I'd say all in all, Germany is responding to this rise in Delta with tweaks to its existing policies, but not necessarily major new restrictions.
We've heard the World Health Organization warn that Europe is at a risk of experiencing a 4th wave of infections. I mean, how close is Europe to this new outbreak?
Well, it really varies from country to country here in Europe. In Germany, for example, infection rates remain very low and, in fact, have been declining. Today, there were about 890 new cases. So even though our Public Health Institute does estimate that Delta is the majority of cases now, it doesn't necessarily seem to be leading to a big outbreak in new infections. Other countries like Portugal, though, are having a much harder time with this highly contagious Delta variant. So we've seen Portugal reinstate things like curfews and travel restrictions, but other countries like France have also been deciding to delay some reopening steps because of Delta. And more broadly across the European continent, cases rose by about 10% last week, according to the WHO. And they are warning that this could lead to a 4th wave of infections by the fall. What all health leaders are really stressing right now is vaccinations. There's been a lot of research in the last few days showing that vaccines do protect against the Delta variant. So there is hope that if vaccination rates remain high, this 4th wave could be avoided.
Finally, Chelsea, the EU's vaccine passport meant to enable free travel throughout the bloc went into force July 1st. How is that working so far?
Well, there have been some hiccups. This digital vaccination certificate was meant to make it pretty easy to travel throughout Europe for Europeans. And the idea is that you get a QR code on your phone. It shows your vaccination or testing status, and you can show that at border controls throughout Europe. The European Commission says that already around 200 million people have one of these certificates because some countries were doing a soft launch of the program leading up to the official launch yesterday. But there already have been reports of issues. Perhaps the biggest functional problem is there isn't much of a control system in place to make sure that the vaccination certificates are actually accurate. A security group here in Germany tested this out and was able to register a fake vaccination certificate to Robert Koch, which is a famous German microbiologist, for the year 1843. Obviously, that's a fake vaccination, and there really weren't any accuracy checks to prevent that from happening. So that's going to be a major concern as this is rolled out. Airlines as well have been warning that this could cause some travel chaos as countries are now implementing this in very different ways. For example, how many times and where these vaccine certificates are being checked at airports really varies throughout the EU right now. So there are likely to be some teething problems as the kinks are worked out of this system.
All right, Deutsche Welle correspondent Chelsea Delaney, many thanks for that update.